We've only just begun.
You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation, as brought to you by the Foundational Friday. Our core aim is to present and experience an opportunity for your soul to reascend to its place of origin by cultivating a healthier spiritual awareness and emotional maturity. This show serves as a free offering to the greater community and an addendum requirement for all ANU spiritual training students. For all those listening, if you'd like to move closer to the calculations and fundamental understandings of the ANU order, be sure to pick up the book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. If you desire a spiritual reading to help you map your current spiritual position in the face of your world and learn the greatest pathways for your fortune in the season, you can go to the SaduluHouse.com. That is SADULUHOUSE.com. You can also go to OrishaReligion.com to find out how you can become a student and member of the new spiritual order. That's ORISHARELIGION.com. Let us begin.
Greetings, all. Here we are again. Another Foundational Friday. I am your host and conductor, Yuya Assaan-ANU, Chief Jegna of the ANU Spiritual Order and head instructor of the Sadulu House Spiritual Center, the place for self-actualizing spiritual education. Okay, we are also, I should say, maybe even this episode is brought to you by OrishaReligion.com. All right, OrishaReligion.com. So, we're here at the last show for the Roman New Year, or what we could even call the financial year, 2013. Normally you don't date your shows, but I don't think it'll be a problem this time. So we're coming now into 2014. No big deal, to be honest. Not a big deal. They're just time, days, moments, and they're just memories. They're just thoughts. But what is important is that it is a new financial year. Okay, for me, I never really considered a new year to begin into spring. Yeah, it makes the most sense to me. You know, the times that we use now, this December thing, I never really understood it too well, and don't seek to try to justify its meaning now or its rhyme or reason, but certainly can understand the springtime being a new year. Of course, we know in Yoruba culture, the new year begins in June, all right, which again makes a bit more sense. But either way, coming into a new financial year, there will be some changes in the ANU spiritual order, which I am feeling good about, feeling great about. One of the things that's important as an instructor or as a guide, as a counselor, and I don't really call myself a leader. I call myself a Jegna, or I've been called a Jegna, and then I took on that title, as well as me having my own Jegna, who I give honor and tribute to and receive guidance from, some of which were on the ANU Asafo show. But one of the important things when you're in a position that people are looking to you for some level of insight, or even sometimes just a sounding board for the things that they're going through, one of the critical things you have to have is not only humility, but you have to have an openness to what's going on and what's not going on based on the efforts that you're putting into it and what you envision being produced. So in this new financial year, there will be some changes in the order that, like I said, I'm feeling good about. There will be changes in the media offerings. So the video show will be coming forth. I recently put out a video. It was more just a mini lesson. I think I only put it on Facebook. I didn't even put it up on YouTube. But it's on the Sadulu House page. You know, so for those of you listening, you should click like on Sadulu House, facebook.com/Sadulu House. And I just gave like a little quick lesson, like a little quick music lesson on some of the metaphysical energies surrounding music. And I kind of just gave a live demonstration a little bit, which was just a kind of a somewhat of an afterthought. I mean, I had the idea to do it. I wanted to do a full all-out class on the major and minor scales and how the tonality of those scales actually affect the individual or the listener. And I have not done it, so I was actually making a video for another purpose. And I said, you know what, while I'm here, well, I'll just do this real quick and then post it up. And it got a very big response. A lot of people emailed me behind it and reached out and were very thankful for the information and just for breaking certain things down. And they really got into it. They enjoyed it. Okay, so obviously it gives a little bit of stimulus to do more of them. I know video is a medium that many people gravitate towards because there's such a huge body of video material on the web, and people just don't read as much as they used to. Many people are facing foreclosure or have already lost their homes, so the idea of being able to maintain a huge book library is a thing of the past, unfortunately. And then you have certain towns where the libraries have completely closed. They don't even exist anymore. And obviously this is a foreshadowing of what's going to be happening across the Western Hemisphere and of course the world, because what the things that go on here, the atrocities, are certainly the prototype for what happens globally. So I understand that video is a new thing. Even with my books, I kind of decided, audio books is something I'm also going to use to accompany all of my works. And with that said, too, if any of you guys know a translator, I'm looking to translate my books into a few other languages, as that has been something that's been asked of me recently. If I could do the translations, there's people from all over the world, which is great, that have been enjoying the books. And I suppose in their language, they have people who maybe don't speak the English or the King's English as well, and would love to share the works with them. So, anyone who's listening who may be multi or bilingual, definitely reach out. Okay? questions@ournewnation.org. And, there's another piece with them. I'm just going over our little housekeeping before we get into some things. The questions@ournewnation.org is where you reach out to ask questions. questions@ournewnation.org. Definitely try not to or don't ask your questions on the Facebook or my personal Facebook page. It's not really for that. And in truth, I don't really check it as often as you might think, because I am not a huge Facebook fan. I'm not even a little Facebook fan. Okay. And in this coming new year, be prepared, because there will be a whole lot less of me than what there has been. Sometimes, based on the level of response, gratitude, and appreciation of the people you're serving, you have to make certain decisions on how to continue servicing them. And one of the decisions that have to be made, or I've made already in this coming financial year, is to present more offerings to the greater populace and to be a little bit less accessible personally, because I can't service you guys as well as you would think. For instance, when you send a lot of the personal questions via Facebook, and I'm not checking it regularly, but I'm on the accounts that I actually use for this business, then your questions go unanswered. And then by the time I get to them, it might be weeks or a month later, and that situation you're going through may not even be prevalent anymore. I know a lot of times people are always looking to receive a personal experience, personal doctoring and things like that, but you may work against yourself by not following the protocol. So yeah, it's very important, again, like I said, not only to follow the protocol of what I've established and set up, but just to understand that things are certainly changing in 2014 in terms of how you all will be serviced, and there'll be more opportunities for you to be a part of the greater community, because that's what this is really about. More opportunity, more shows for you to call in. We got some more shows getting ready to happen on enlightenment and transformation, as well as more venues where shows will be promoted and broadcasted, not just Blog Talk, but some other stations that we're gonna have popping off soon. And there's also even another mixtape that you guys should check out. It's on Mixcloud. I'll try to include the link for it in this show. But we did it some time ago. But it's basically just a compilation of some old pieces of me on a very old radio show I had, about a decade ago. And just DJ, she chopped up, just, she listened to the show and chopped up my voice in certain parts and put it to music. So you guys might want to check that out. It's called The Beauty of Evolution. And it's on Mixcloud, The Beauty of Evolution. All right, but again, I'll try to put a link in for it somewhere. But yeah, in any event, like I said, we got a new year popping off, some new things happening, which are great and wonderful, and that I'm excited about. Because, change is excellent. Change is excellent when it's guided, and that's really the thing. Not in terms of not guiding it in terms of trying to block it or to hinder it or to put it in terms that you can understand. But when you're able to be on the forefront of the change that's happening in your life, you're in a good place. And that's one of the reasons why you're listening to this show and previous shows, and whatever relationship, you might join a class or get a reading, whatever relationship that you're beginning to form and develop with your own spiritual being, your goal, your immediate goal should be to guide the change or to ride the tide of change in your life. You want to surf that tide of change. You don't want to be drug over, by the water, or drug under and scraped against the coral reefs and the sand. You want to be able to ride it like a surfer. And in doing that, number one, it's a safer place to be, but you get to actually see some of the purpose and reason for the change in your life. This was a year that a lot of people, especially in readings that I did with people, a lot of people had energy of pressure and having to come to a place of single-pointed direction in their life this year. There was a lot of that in the readings, coming to a place of focusing on one thing or just focus in general. Of course, we live in a society where there is a massive level of overstimulation that our children are subjected to, but as well as we are. Many of you listening to this right now, you're probably listening and doing something else at the same time, or you may have already phased out and you're now on your favorite social networking site, just looking and meandering and wandering. That level of attention deficit disorder that a lot of people suffer from, especially those who have social media addictions, is one of the reasons why you're unable to ride the tide of change in your life. Okay, in order to do that, you have to be able to focus. You have to have a level of patience, and you have to be at peace with yourself and at peace with what you are able to do in the moment. This kind of brings us to what I was talking about, or what we'll be talking about briefly, because this is not going to be a long show. There's a lot going on right now in the moment, and tonight we're preparing in the Ile. Tonight we're preparing to consecrate some folks to the Orisha families that they were born out of. So consecrations are in the air, so there's a lot of things that I have to not only oversee but of course perform. All right, but of course I wanted to speak to my people before the financial year ended out, and I wanted to close out this series on thunder that we have been covering all month. People have really been enjoying this too. We actually not only earned some new students who enrolled in the class, but also even some new people began following the show, as a result of us getting into the thunder rites, thunder rituals, break decoding the movie store and things like that. And of course we did the Q&A where we took a little bit of break, but again, the element that we're looking at is fire or thunder, and the thought and the idea. So we ended off with the archetype of Thor. But before we get into that, one last thing, check me out tomorrow evening. Well, tomorrow I'll be on two of our shows, Anu Asafo at 1 p.m. where I will be the featured guest, and I will not only be giving the financial reading and I'm saying financial again because we're entering a new financial year, for this new financial year coming up, but I will also be giving some new rules, some new spiritual rules and culture for 2014 that we want to be mindful of. Okay, some new spiritual rules and culture for 2014. So I will be doing a new Asafo tomorrow, but I will also at 9 p.m. be on Soul Revolution Radio. Okay, that's on Blog Talk Radio, blogtalkradio.com/Soul Revolution. That's 9 p.m. Eastern, by the way, and that'll be a 1-hour show, and I'll be on there speaking about African thought, philosophy, calculation, and of course a little bit about Orisha. You know, people a lot of times when they reach out, they want to learn more about Orisha, which is great. You know, the information is getting out there, spreading, and more people are connecting with the tradition. The more people that connect with the tradition, the more the Orisha get fed. So that means the more powerful and quicker they are to handle things that you may need them to do. So this is not something we don't want to keep walking around tucking in leques inside of our shirt and buttoning our shirts up to the collar like we're, you know, some old school gangbangers. You don't really have to do that anymore. You know, the more the energy is out there, the more that you say the names of these entities, especially your personal private entities, the more powerful they become. All right, so this is not something you want to hide underneath your bed. This is a new day and a new time, and we don't need to be afraid of our traditions, nor do we need to be ashamed of them. We don't have to cover them up with new age terms or anything like that. Just leave that alone. Okay, so those are the shows you can check us out on, and or check me out on if you want some more information. Of course, you guys should call in. The call in for Soul or Revolutionary Soul Radio, Soul Revolution Radio, I'm sorry, is 818-572-2928. That is 818-572-2928. You know, so any questions you might have or whatever, you know, or you just want to join the fun, you can call in on that show, Soul Revolution, and we'll be talking about some good stuff. All right, and on New Asafo, you know, definitely check us out. If you're listening to this show, it's the same station, same call in, and we'll be going over, like I said, the new spiritual rules for 2014 to keep in mind, as well as the reading for this financial year coming, and what we need to do, or what would be wise for us to do in order to navigate the financial landmine, you know, and to bring the wealth to us that we are looking for and may even need to make sure that our food, clothing, and shelter is perpetually secured, and we're able to provide, preserve, and protect our families as we should. Okay, so that's something you want to be on the lookout for. All right, but let's get into this energy of Thor. Okay, and you know, with us finishing off this month, I want to kind of get into why I wanted to do Thunder and why I wanted to speak on it. Very interesting enough, I put a post recently on the group wall, okay, where my students are within Facebook, and in that post I basically gave some advice. You know, I gave some advice as to how maybe we need to be carrying ourselves as students, and some of the mistakes that people make, and in all honesty, some of the annoyances that people begin to generate because of a warped sense of confidence, a warped sense of self, and certainly a warped sense of ego. And this statement or this post was a product and a result of me seeing a repeated pattern amongst several people. And when I say several, I'm speaking probably about a dozen over the past year or two, and who are invested, and we could say committed to some degree to spiritual information, spiritual growth, spiritual development, and who come from various metaphysical communities. And what I had been seeing is this pattern of arrogance, you know, and certainly a pattern of bad student culture, just terrible student culture. And I had to speak on it because, again, things are changing soon, and some of these things I won't be speaking on anymore. I even did a show last year with S. Ali Myers, and on that show we spoke about the master student and the master teacher, and how a student should carry themselves, how a student should regard their instructor, how they should regard correction and things like that. And it's soaked in for some, but for so many it didn't. And I knew that just by the comments that people were putting up. They didn't understand what was being said, or why teachers are so rare. You find one once in a while, but most people, as the complaint always is, oh, I got initiated, I got my lekes, got my pot, and nobody taught me anything. Because sometimes it's just too big of a headache. Sometimes trying to help people out is such a headache. People come with all of their isms, and they're coming to be healed and fixed. But when you start highlighting their isms to them, so that they can be repaired, or you ask them little questions or little things here to help them out, they become very, very, very defensive, or they become very dismissive of you, and ultimately very disrespectful, or they run away, they disappear. And this is one of the reasons why some of our greatest teachers decide to no longer service the communities that they came from. I want you to give a lot of thought to that for a second, okay? Because a lot of people complain about that. People are called sellouts, they're called crossovers, and this and that, and so forth and so on. But as it is said, a prophet has no honor in their own home. If the people who you love so dear, who you are consistently trying to service, don't respect you at the level that they should, so therefore they're blocking what you're trying to give to them, and we haven't even gotten to the aspects of support. They don't want to support what you're giving to them or what's needed for you to continue to deliver information. At some point you may have to make a hard decision to leave them alone. Okay, you may have to make that hard decision, and it's nobody's fault but their own. So this is one of the reasons why good teachers are rare, and you'll find a lot of teachers who may be opportunists, who take the opportunity to just take from you because you're taking from them. You've attracted yourselves to one another. You're just two wolves. Okay, so sometimes as instructors, what we need to do is separate ourselves from the population that we're trying to work with, because there's certain energy that we can't have around us in order to keep doing our job efficiently and without compromise and without taint. But regardless of that, it's important for the student to check themselves and really ask yourself, am I really coming to this experience to change? Am I really coming to this experience to grow? Am I really allowing myself to be taught? Or do I think my teacher is my peer? And whenever they suggest or point something out to me, I immediately go into this mode of excuses and explanation, as if you can explain something to someone who overstands you. It's just a really sad commentary. I'll be honest, family. And I speak to other colleagues about this, and not everyone, but many are extremely just disappointed and disgusted and turned off with the quote-unquote conscious community and their idea of what learning is. Everybody is an expert, so you can't say anything. I can't tell you how many lectures I've gone to, and while I'm sitting there speaking, someone is trying to have a conversation with me in the audience. I'll say something and they'll say, yeah, that's just like so-and-so, because I was reading this book the other day, and and then sometimes you got to say, I remember having to say, like, listen, man, I'm getting paid to do this, so you don't need to do it for free. I'm getting paid for it. I got this. Just put your hand back down. Or they'll just jump in and start talking, because it's so hard for them to sit there and learn something, or to admit that there's somebody who knows a little bit more about what's going on out here. There are just some people on the planet or in the world that know a little bit more about what's going on out here than others. And that's why you hire them to come teach. Nobody hired you. So, but again, I've spoken to colleagues about this, and we laugh about it and everything, but it is definitely a very sad time and a sad thing. Just like many of you appreciate the show because the information is given freely. I deliver it without agenda. Every 5 minutes you don't hear me say, and that's why you need to sign up for the class, or that's why you need to come get a reading. That's said in the announcements in the beginning, and I think at the end. That's bad, because now I don't really listen to the announcement at the end of the show, but that's it. if you're drawn to come to being a student, cool. If not, that's fine too. There was a time not too long ago, we're just talking about a year or so ago, where I hand selected students to avoid certain headaches. Okay, I would hand select them. So, and I had cohorts, that would stay with me for about 9 months, and then I would hand select the next batch. And that would keep my measurable energy units from being depleted by hard-headed, disrespectful, uncooperative people who only really come to me because they want to align themselves with me to make themselves feel better about themselves, so they can walk out and say, yeah, Yuya, that's my teacher. Yeah, that's who I work with. You don't work with me. No, that's not how this thing works. You come so that you can learn something, and if you have nothing to learn from me, then you don't need to be it. You need to go. You need to make room. Get up from your seat so someone else who really needs the instruction can get it. And this ties all into our understanding of Thor. Okay, Thor. If you understand anything about the mythology, Thor was not only does he represent all the things that we spoke about this month in terms of regenerative abilities and strength and power and warfare and strategy and skill and aspirations for the throne, but he also represents the ability to raise the dead back to life. One of the talents that he has with his hammer, Mjolnir, he's able to take that hammer and put it on the body of somebody who died, and they can come back to life. Okay, so again, as I said, all month, and if you haven't checked out those shows, I suggest you go to the archives. He represents the ability for regeneration, but the hammer itself is the phallus. Okay, it is the male phallus, which also, as we know, is the sign of creation and generation. Okay, or regeneration, Ra generation. Ra generation is light, right? Bringing forth divine light again. All right, so you're speaking to, it's just like in the Bible, Ezekiel going into the valley of the dry bones. All right, and what those were just the people who were depleted of all this spiritual water, depleted of all this, because water is information. Okay, the flow of information, they were depleted of it. So Ezekiel had to go down there and preach to them. And speaking to the valley of the dry bones is no easy feat. Believe you me, it is no easy feat when you're speaking to people of a reprobate mind who know everything and don't want to hear anything, and you can't comment unless it's in an affirmative of what they already just said, even if what they said makes no sense. You have to pretend that it does, because you're dealing with a dry bone. And when you're dealing with dry bones, people, you got to know when to step away, when to just leave them be and let them be where they are. And that is one of the jobs of Shango, one of the jobs of Thor, is to regenerate and to reanimate those who are stuck in their ways and actions. Okay, this was the job of the Christ figure, but this was also, remember, Christ is a duality of Lucifer, so this was also a job of the serpent. All right, because what did the serpent come and do? The serpent also representing the phallus, the male phallus. He said, listen, this thing that you're calling God is, he's sitting here, he's got you wrapped around his finger like an idiot. You get the tree, the low-hanging fruit. You don't get to touch the good tree. You get the low-hanging fruit. You get to walk around here, naked and everything. Everything's perfect, but you'll never develop. You'll never grow. You'll never be a deity yourself, because you're too comfortable. You're too comfortable, and you may be addicted to the patterns of that comfort. Okay? You may be addicted to the patterns of that comfort. So that same regenerative force, as snakes do represent in our animal medicine because of its ability to shed its skin, it represents new life and regeneration. The snake was actually the liberator. The serpent was the liberator of Adam and Eve, and God was nothing but a prison warden. Okay, he was just a prison warden. That's all he was. I come and check. It's basically no different than how the slave makers would go down the slaves' row, as they called them, at night after they finished their evening meal, and they'd smoke their corn pipe, and they would go down the row and call the women out to rape them. It's no different. So God would come and speak to Adam in the cool of the evening. You know, when I'm done doing what I'm doing, when things cool down, I'm going to come and have a conversation with these pets I'm keeping in my dollhouse called the Garden of Eden. And the serpent came along, who obviously had access to that place. So obviously there was a plan in place here. You know, this wasn't... I'm not saying that God is the bad guy here. So the serpent coming forth saying, hey, you know what? There's another way to live, and you can be as God is, maybe even greater. Okay? But all you got to do is fall. In order to get through it, you got to go through it. Okay, so when they fell, now you got to go through it. That's a part of what your training and your learning is about. It's about going through it. It's not about finding situations and opportunities where you can maintain your comfort levels because that's what you're used to. That's not an instructor's job is not to make you comfortable. Okay, an instructor's job is to prepare you for something. You know, as Amos Wilson once said, if schools had any level of legitimacy, then what education would entail is teaching people how to make jobs for themselves. Right? But that's not comfortable. Right? That's not comfortable. What's more comfortable is for me to continue to teach you how to be a slave. Okay? Because some people are so happy. They'll cut your throat and hang you if you try to remove the shackles from their ankles. They'll kill you. Okay, so Thor, especially in the movie that we broke down, and at some point I'm going to break down Dark World as well, which is the next Thor movie coming out. You know, I'll give everybody a chance to kind of check it out, so that way I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it or haven't had the opportunity but plan to. So what Thor represented in the movie and even in the mythology is aspirations for the throne without actually earning the crown. And I had shared this story before in dealing with the sons of Orunmila, or one of the sons, the eldest son of Orunmila. And there was a very interesting story that ties right back into the Thor and what it is that we're speaking about here. But before we get into that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back more with the energy science of Thor and how it ties into how we need to move as effective students of metaphysics and spirituality in the next season.
For all those in the New York area, please check out our Chief Jegna, Yuya Assaan-ANU, at Nicholas Bookstore on Sunday, January 19th from 2 to 4 p.m., where he will be hosting a workshop on self-actualization with the cosmic forces of West Africa. In this workshop, you will learn how to self-actualize through the universal energies that govern the laws and character of the cosmos. This workshop is a continuation of the Unleashing of Cosmic Forces of West Africa series that is currently being enjoyed by thousands of listeners on Chief Yuya's popular blog talk radio show, Enlightenment and Transformation. The workshop is Sunday, January 19th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Nicholas Bookstore, which is located at 570 Fulton Street, Brooklyn, New York, 11217. The cost of this event is $10 at the door. Be prepared to change your life through aligning your spiritual faculties with their corresponding cosmic archetypes. Meet Chief Jegna Yuya Assaan-ANU at Nicholas Bookstore on Sunday, January 19th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nicholas Bookstore is located at 570 Fulton Street, Brooklyn, New York, for the workshop Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa. The first 10 people to RSVP on the Enlightened Spirit Meetup website will receive a free one-question reading. That's right, the first 10 people to RSVP on the Enlightened Spirit Meetup at www.meetup.com/African-spirit-workers/ will receive a free one-question reading. See you at Nicholas Bookstore in Brooklyn, New York for the workshop Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa. And now, back to our segment.
All right, so we're back from the break. And again, I'm Yuya Assaan-ANU, Chief Jegna of the ANU Spiritual Order and head instructor of the Sadulu House Spiritual Center. And on today's segment, we're speaking about the cosmic archetype known as Thor. But more than just breaking down the archetype, we're speaking about how that energy works and is present in our now time, because that's really where it's most important to really center your learning and your understanding. You want to understand the power relationships that exist between you and these archetypes and you and the world, and how to employ each one for the benefit and ascension of the other. So what we were speaking about before we left for the break was the understanding that I shared about Orunmila some time ago. I don't remember which show. You know, we've got a lot of shows under our belt now, especially with the addition of the ANU Asafo show on Sundays. We've actually doubled our archives, our show archive list, so which is great. It's a lot of good information going back to the archives. I encourage all to do so, especially those who have joined the class. Remember that one of the requirements is to take the Unleash Your Inner God little mini course, which is really just a compilation of certain shows that were done previously that would help one to understand the philosophy, language, and thought of the ANU Spiritual Order. But there was a show I did some time ago speaking about Orunmila's sons, and it was kind of like a celebration that he was having in his kingdom. Orunmila, we know, of course, being the archetype of all-knowing or omniscience, right? Part of that trinity of all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-present, right? So he was having this event, long story short, or the celebration, where he was being honored. And what occurred was his sons came, each one came, and as they came to the throne, they bowed to him. Right now, the reason he was celebrating his children was because they were all rulers in their own right. Okay, so you know, he was a proud father. He was happy about this. Very similar to the relationship between Obatala, king of the white cloth, and Shango. Okay, Shango is a king, but Obatala is king of all. There's always somebody who knows more. There's always somebody higher up. No matter how much you think you know, no matter how much you think you see, there's always someone who's further ahead than you are. That's just how this thing works, you know. So, but that person further ahead can still celebrate your growth and your progression. All right. So Orunmila was celebrating that growth and progression of his sons, right? And each one came up. They bowed when they came to the throne. So the last son comes up and he says, "You know what? Nah, man, I'm not bowing. You can forget that. I'm not bowing to you." And Orunmila's just sitting there. He's not really saying anything. He's like, "Listen, I got a crown. I have the brass slippers. I have the staff." You know, he's going through all of the wares that Orunmila had. He said, "I have everything that you have. Why should I have to bow to you? I'm not bowing to you." Okay? And there was more to that story, but really what it represents is this, okay? The fact that he came into his father's kingdom and everybody else bowed. He compared everything that he had and said, well, if I have all of the images, vestiges, and adornments of a king, then why should I have to bow to another king? At the end of the day, we're just colleagues. We're just peers, okay? And he had issues from that point with Orunmila, but it goes into another part of the story. And there's actually two versions of it. But again, I broke it down on one of the archives. But what that represents is the concept and the idea of indiscriminate emulation, as I call it. When I first read that Pataki, I said, yeah, this is indiscriminate emulation. And what that really means is people who just copy something or think they have that thing because they're able to emulate it. But it doesn't mean you have it, because you're emulating it indiscriminately. And in truth, here in the Western part of the world, that's a crime. You know, you can't impostor yourself as someone else. That's actually illegal. You know, or that would be like one putting on the uniform, putting on a black suit, and then going to a family that's grieving and saying, listen, I'm a mortician. Give me the body and I'll prepare it and bury it for you. Okay, you just can't do that. You can't put on a police officer's uniform. Well, actually, no, you can. By law, you can police yourselves. But you can't say, okay, I represent something that I don't represent. You can't put a badge on and say, okay, I'm a lieutenant, in the police or New York City Police Force, if that's not the job that you were hired to do. Through common law and natural law, you can actually form militias and bands and police yourself. That actually is legal, but you can't say that, hey, I go work for this corporation known as the New York City Police Department, and this is my title within that corporation, if you were not hired as an agent of the state via the New York City Police Department. You can't do that. That's indiscriminate emulation. You can't go and put on yellow and green elekes and wear the ide and wear the staff and put on the outfits and the clothes and the crown and give yourself a title of a Babalawo and function and move through the world as a Babalawo. It's just as illegal and just as criminal. Okay? And this is what's happening not only in the conscious community, and this spans race and gender. Okay? So though you may have certain images conjuring up in your mind, because I work with a variety of different type of client, and through different types of spaces that I work out of, because of that fact, I get to see a lot of different kinds of people and, interact with different kinds of people. So this is a sickness and a phenomenon that is going across the quote-unquote conscious community with people who are self-aware. The sickness of indiscriminate emulation, which we also saw outlined in the movie Thor. Okay, this is one of the reasons why he was stripped of things, because he put himself into the position of a king before he was put there by the king. Okay, because he's figuring, I got my hammer, Mjolnir, I have my belt, which doubles my strength, and I'm getting ready to be crowned as king. So why not? Why can I not do this? Because you have not earned the title, so therefore you do not understand what's happening. So just because, let's take it back to contemporary times with the students that we have, or the communities that we have, just because you and I watch the same YouTube video doesn't mean that we see the same thing. Just because we both have a spiritual name doesn't mean that we are representing the same level of spirituality. Just because we even have the same books in our collection doesn't mean that we both have the same understanding, overstanding, and understanding of the text that appears in those books. Just because you and I speak the same language doesn't mean that we're both human. You might be emulating a human. You might be emulating man. You might be mankind. Okay? So the same thing exists when we're dealing with spirituality, when we're dealing with conscious information and self-awareness. Just because you're able to speak the language to some degree, you're able to give the style, the swagger, as some like to say, the jargon and the vernacular of a spiritual person, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are that spiritual person. You might just be faking. And this is what people talk about, especially your grandma, your grandpa, your aunties. This is what they're referring to when they say, if you get into that African stuff, you're going to go crazy. They always tell you that you're going to mess yourself up. You're going to put something on you that you're not going to be able to get off. You better leave that stuff alone. Oh, Jesus, the blood of Jesus, the devil's a liar. Okay. This is what they're referring to, because many of you have gone crazy. Grandma was right. She was absolutely right. You laughed at her and said, oh, Grandma, you don't know. You ain't conscious. You don't know what's going on out here. I'm telling you, this is what I'm doing here. This is where it's at. Your insanity was the fact that you joined a religion, quote unquote. You went out and bought and that religion could have been conscious information. It could have been Ifa. It could have been Orisha. It could have been a lot of different things, right? And you invested into it like a fanatic without one understanding and studying it. There was no study that occurred. You get that. And not only was there no study occurred, there was no true understanding of how you're supposed to carry yourself through that system. Okay. But with each piece, because anybody can go to a Botanica and buy a pack of Elekes. Anyway, you could go buy plastic beads all day and put them around your neck, and you can walk around real slow, and you can get a book on Orisha names, and you can give yourself an Orisha name, and now all of a sudden you're Baba or Iya or Mama, this or that. Indiscriminate emulation. You have not gone through the fire. You don't understand Ifa. You don't understand Orisha. You just got a bunch of plastic beads walking around your neck, hanging around your neck. They don't mean anything. Just like Rumula's son's brass slippers and crown, it meant nothing. It's a phrase that I always give credit where I get things from. Brother Ifawumi, he always says, and that he's a member of the order, he talks about empty crowns. This is nothing but the signs of an empty crown. You have nothing. There's no weight behind your words, no weight behind your actions, no weight behind your ashe. You have no ashe. None. Now, what do you mean by that? Everything has ashe, right? You're not projecting and manifesting any of it. It's in the storehouse waiting for your character to align with something that's actually authentic, because only real people get to use ashe. All others get it taken from them. I'm going to say it one more time. Real people get to use ashe. All others get it taken from them. This is why spiritual work is so easy to do against certain people. Because of the misaligned character. Because you're not keeping it real. You're fronting. Indiscriminate emulation. You're Thor aspiring towards Odin's throne, but you haven't really gone and carried the fire and the cross in order to be a proper ruler. You're Rumula's son who was able to go and get the ornaments and the adornments of a king and of the ruler of Rumula, and now says, I am a Rumula. I'm not going to bow to you. I'm not going to give you any reverence and respect, my teacher, because we are the same thing, because I'm able to speak like you, look like you, move like you. So I am you. No, you're not. You're a carbon copy who has not found their own voice and identity as of yet, and you may never find it, because some of you're tripping, and you're going so far from your natural source, and when you done tripped so far you can't even find the path back home. So you'll come back next time, and maybe you'll get it in the next lifetime. But for those of you who are listening to this and you understand what I'm speaking about, there may be hope. And you can stop this thing before it goes any further. And I know this sounds like a very fiery message that I'm delivering to some of you if you feel convicted about it. But hey, this show is about Thor, and I have been covering lightning, and we are approaching the end of the financial new year. And part of one of the things that maintains this sick position that a lot of people take is that they are addicted to very fluff, light, and airy and inconsequential spiritual information. Only things that affirm where they're already at. That's why you've heard me talk many times about the light and love crew. I'm glad most of you stay away from you with that stuff. Okay, what I deal with is the things that will help us, the things that we need, as were given to me by the Most High, Ori Iwaju, pineal organ. Okay, the other stuff is just poetry. It's only poetry. It holds very little value. Very little. I had an experience recently where I was speaking to a group of people, right? And I was speaking to this group of people, and there was a word that was given to me to share with the woman who was there. And so she was sitting in front of me, and I was speaking to her about exactly what I'm talking about now with you all, coming into a more responsible place with her spirituality and stop being so addicted to fluff relationships and fluff spirituality. She was someone who had dealt with a lot of pain in her relationships, and she kept setting herself up to be hurt over and over and over again because she was looking for people to hurt her. She wanted something phony. She didn't want something real. Whenever someone brought something real to her, she always rejected it. So I started giving her an example. I said, people can say things like this and you fall for them. They could say, you are the universe's favorite child. There is greatness that lies deep within you, but you have to trust yourself when you are looking over the cliffside and the edge. You have to trust yourself to free fall and know that the angels who live and exist around you will never let you fall to a place where you can never rise again. You have to fall to rise, because your ancestors are looking out for you every step of the way. Your feet are ordered. You are the greatest sun in your universe. You are the greatest power that you have ever come in contact with if you will only introduce yourself to yourself. Right? Now I just made that fluff up just now while I was talking. Okay, so any of you who fell for it. So don't you know, this woman started crying as I was speaking. And she started fanning her eyes saying, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Oh, more, give me more, give me more. I literally said, give me more, give me more. Give me more, give me more, like an addict. And I said, oh, wait a minute, you misunderstood. I said, no, I was saying those things to you to give you an example of what you need to get away from. And she thought I was saying, so it showed several things. Number one, she wasn't listening. Okay, she didn't understand what I was doing because she wasn't paying attention. The only thing she heard was that. She had so attuned her ears to garbage, all she could hear was ego strokes. She was deaf to anything other than an ego stroke. Okay, so of course this is problematic. Of course this has to stop. There's no secret about that. And that's really what I'm speaking about here. When we understand this Thor energy, the aspirations towards the throne, because you want all of the ego building and the things that cover and encrustate your heart. These are nothing but walls and shields that you build around your heart to make you feel like you got something that you actually don't have. But when the real king comes, like Orunmila, and says, listen, you don't have what, you can't do what I do. You don't have the connection to Oludumare like I do. I am Ileri Ipen. I am the witness to creation. I am the witness to destiny. You're not that. Okay? You're a miniature reflection of what I am. When that comes, oh, the reaction is much different. So, I wanted to really speak on that because, especially in leading up to Sunday's Anu Asafo show at 1 p.m., this is one of the things that I'm going to have to speak about and cover because these are some of the new things that we need to be mindful of and to stop doing in the coming financial year. We have to stop looking for these experiences that do nothing but to build ego and give us a title that is absolutely worthless. That is the insanity that your family talked about it was going to happen when you started messing with the dark arts and dark spirits. You have gone insane. You changed your name. You got a bunch of beads around your neck. You let your hair grow out however, and your beard, you got coins and cowrie shells and nickels and condom packets tied into your hair for protection and all this other mess. And you've gone crazy. You've gone stark crazy. So when information comes to you, when a teacher comes to you, you respond like a crazy person. You shut down, you start talking to yourself. And I want you to compare that to the people who you look down on. And I have to say it like the fanatical Christians. When you start speaking to them, what do? They shut down. They start telling you, oh, the blood of Jesus and this and that and that. Well, many of you do the same thing, except what you do is you shut down, you start looking in the air, and you give the grateful sign, you bow your head like you're really listening, like there is really some humility there, and it's nothing. You've gone crazy. You've gone crazy. And the healing medicine is exposing that craziness to the light, and more importantly, being honest and real with yourself. What am I really like? What do I really enjoy? What are my true and actual challenges? And how did I even come into this level of spiritual understanding? If we can even call it understanding, because the secret is that it's not understanding. You don't understand. Okay? Because you can't study with people and be under systems for 10, 15 years or even 5 years and still have some of the basic hang-ups that some of these people have that we're speaking about. Can't listen. You're rude. You can't get along with people. Your children are horrible. You can't maintain a healthy relationship. These are believe it or not, these are the basics. But meanwhile, you're telling me about levitation, astral travel, and psychotelekinesis. But you can't do the basic of things. Basics. That tells you that the people who you are studying under are not teaching you anything. Or you're not open to learning anything. You're not growing and changing. So you're bringing that same mentality into every learning experience that you participate in. You're bringing the same exact mentality. And when someone seeks to challenge or to refine that mentality, you go to war. You go to war. All right. So this is an important point, and I'm not going to speak on it again, to be honest, because I feel like This is what we need to be mindful of in the coming year. This is the first step. Not what do the ancestors got to say, and will this happen, and when my son get out of jail, and when my daughter get pregnant. This shit, let's look at what we actually really need and the blockages that we have. And one of the main blockages that has been occurring and has built up is the blockage of arrogance and narcissism. I found a very interesting article that I shared in the new spiritual training group, which, let me give a note, it's only for registered students. If you have not bought the class, it is not for you. We get a lot of requests for people to join the group, but I don't think you all understand. If you're not a registered student, the group is not for you. Okay, it's a private group, just so you know. But I put a posting up about narcissism that is created through the addiction of social media. Very interesting article. Maybe I'll share it maybe I'll write an article on it, on the article myself, so it'll be on one of the web pages, probably Sadulu House, so you all can check it out. But there's a level of narcissism, the inability to be critiqued, the inability to respond to adverse information without getting angry, the victim mentality, so forth and so on. These are all signs of the narcissist. And this level, or this extreme level and measure of narcissism, which has now set a new barometer for how people behave and respond to each other. A lot of this comes through the inclusion of social media, because you're able to put certain ideas out there, quote unquote, and no matter how foolish it is or how little of the story you tell, you get likes and comments and encouragement and things like that. And all you have is narcissists encouraging another narcissist. You have false and fake identity just building on each other. So you have virtual characters building virtual characters, and no one's being honest and real about where they're actually at and who they actually are and at. I would challenge everyone in this coming season to take a break from social media. Try 3 months. See what happens. Just take a break. Okay, I'm not saying you got to kill everything off, although that wouldn't be a terrible idea either. Take a break. Get to know yourself a little bit. This will be your first step in healing this insanity of indiscriminate emulation. This is your first step in healing it. You have to get back to knowing who and what you are beyond just names that you go and look up in a book and give yourself, or what you post. Now, many of you're going to listen to the show and you're going to go on to Facebook or Twitter and you're going to say, I have learned that I am a beautiful flower of the universe and I am sprouting and growing, and though I may not be perfect, God loves me all the same. Now, I just made that up on the spot too. Some of you are going to post some stuff like that, and everybody's going to say, Ashe, Ashe, that's right, you are beautiful, and then the stupidness starts all over again. All right, that's got to stop, family. Come on, let's stop that mess. All right, we got to get to our core essence of who and what we are. If you don't do that, you're not going to learn anything. You're not going to grow. The only thing that's going to grow is your ego, and that's the thing that's blocking you from your entrance into Orun. Okay, it's Eshu who sits at the crossroads, and as long as you're building up that intellectual mind, or in the Kabbalic chart, Hod, that swift, glorious intelligence, because Hod represents glory, but more importantly, intelligence, and it's the glory that we want, the glory that we seek, and the glory that we seek is the aggrandizing of the ego or the human identity. That's what we consider to be glorious. And that is actually your blockage. That is the biggest stumbling stone that's in front of you all, is the glorifying of ego, the glorifying of self. Come into a place now where you can deny self, deny the human identity. And I don't mean deny your hang-ups and say, well, I'm a goddess, or I'm a god anyway. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying deny the things that you consider to be glorious, and invest in the things that you consider to be subtle and quiet. Like when we speak about in the spiritual world, that still quiet voice that is represented by spirit. Okay? There needs to be more of an investment in that, and it needs to be quiet. Everybody doesn't need to know what's going on every step of your spiritual development, because the truth is, most people don't care anyway. Most people do not care. All right? For the most part, this is a lonely walk. You hear me say it all the time, and you have to learn to self-validate. Validation doesn't come through Ashe's likes and you go boy or you go girl or whatever. All right? So with that said, that is our segment. I am your conductor, Yuya Assaan-ANU, It has been a wonderful financial year with you all. And as we come into the new Roman year, there will be new lessons, new offerings, new experiences, and a new me, right? Tonight, after tonight, it'll be a new me. When the sun comes up the day after, it'll be another me. Another me, another me, another me, another me, another me. And I look forward to all the different me's that I get to meet. And I will that the same will occur for you, that you will continue to have a new you, while at the same time staying you and not going crazy and insane with addictions to superficial consciousness and spirituality that really is nothing but a beast and a demon that is keeping you from getting back home. All right, family. Much love to you. Coltrane's love supreme. Much honor to you all. Much respect. Okay, and travel safe, travel with peace, and bring nothing but enlightenment and transformation to all of your experiences. All right, peace.
We thank you for your listening support and urge you to become an active participating member of the ANU Order. Please be sure to follow our Ustream broadcast, which can be found at ustream.tv/channel/enlightenment-transformation. That is ustream.tv/enlightenment-transformation. Also, please be sure to sign up for the ANU newsletter, which can be found by going to anunation.org. That is ANUNATION.org. If you'd like to become a sponsor or an on-air guest on this or any of our other broadcasts, please be sure to contact us at questions@anunation.org. That is the word questions at anunation.org. Thank you for your continued support and be well.